We live in a Catholic world in which there is a terrible problem going on. Many people are leaving the Catholic Church. They're joining evangelical experiences. They're joining non-denominational churches. Why? Hi, my name is Father Mike Manning. God bless you. Thank you very much for watching this program. I think you are in for something very special. You're going to experience some challenges in your life that maybe you hadn't anticipated. I'm going to be speaking with a very special lady, a friend of mine, Sister Gretchen. God bless you. Thank you very much for coming and being with us.
Thanks for inviting me.
Sister, you've had an experience that is very rich and real throughout your life of trying to bring people to the experience of Christ and trying to make sure the church that we love very much as a Catholic Church is a real representation of that Christian experience, of that Jesus experience. Are you with me on that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about your experience of Jesus through your life. Have you always been a Catholic?
Always been a Catholic.
Had you ever...
I was dunked early on.
Have you ever gone through some times, though, in your reaching out to Christ where you found that perhaps things were difficult and maybe there might have been alternatives that you were thinking of? Well,
I think first of all, I was very, very, very blessed with wonderful parents and a wonderful family.
Where were you raised?
I was born in Boston, and then we moved out here when I was about 5 years old. Okay. So I really grew up in Southern California. So I, particularly call this my home, sure. Really, yeah. So, but my father was, even at Vatican II, I remember my father reading all the documents of Vatican II.
Hello?
He was
at home.
He was a pharmacist, and he would sit on the couch at night, and he would read the documents of Vatican II. Wow. And I was so impressed with that because I had already entered the community. So I've been.
What do you mean entered the community?
I entered my religious community.
Oh, okay.
So when I would visit, he would tell me about what document he had just read, and I hadn't even read them yet.
Oh my gosh!
So so we're talking about a person who really understood what accepting the fact of discipleship and what it means to really be a friend of Jesus and also an advocate for Jesus, and that's one of the reasons why I love that encyclical or the apostolic exhortation of Pope Francis on the joy of the gospel. Yeah, yeah. And I think when you mentioned the fact that people are leaving the Roman Church, I think part of it is because they never experienced the joy of the gospel. They might have experienced the rules of the church, but something was lacking in their formation as a believer, as a Christian.
And it's so easy to get caught up in the rules, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And rules can become almost a security. If I'm following the rules and I'm almost scrupulous about them, absolutely, that's going to get me to heaven.
Absolutely.
And yet that isn't necessarily the rule of Jesus. The rule of Jesus is not the law, but much more who are the people that are affected by the law. Are you with me on that?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the other piece of it too is I think prayer is so important, but people learned how to say prayers. And when I do formation with adults, particularly with women, I say, there's a difference between prayer and saying prayers. Both are good. Prayer is better.
What's the difference?
And the difference is that in prayer, we are attentive to the movement of God and the Spirit in our life. We sit quietly, and if we don't sit quietly, we're not going to hear the little whispers that God is constantly giving us.
Wait a minute, are you saying that God talks to you?
Sure.
What do you mean,
God talks to me right now through you.
Oh.
Through anyone I meet during the day.
That makes me feel good, huh? But you're saying that the bombardment of God's communication is all around us.
Well, and see, if when we teach the laity how to pray, they become aware of that, and they realize that they may never have met Jesus. And so when they meet Jesus, they become disciples, which is what we should have been doing all along.
And that's one of the basic things that I think is the key for many, you're saying this, of many people leaving the Catholic Church. I hear this often as to, why did you leave? Well, nobody ever talked to me about Jesus. And I'm saying, what? And throughout the catechism, or through even 16 years of Catholic education, through grade school, high school, and college, there could be so much concern about, I guess, the organization and the rules, that you lost touch with a personal and intimate relationship with Jesus. Are you with me on this?
And also, you fail to realize that one of the greatest gifts that we've been given as human beings is our conscience. And we need to follow our conscience. That's been church teaching for centuries.
Yes.
And yet many people, their conscience is telling them that this isn't quite right, but the rules say you have to do this. So they get confused. And when they see an evangelical, when they see a person who is so attentive to listening for the word of the Spirit, they sort of feel deprived. And so they begin to go to these churches, and they see how happy everyone is and so forth. And so they soon discover that the happiness comes from their personal relationship with Jesus. Actually, he came so that we would have life. That's the motto of my religious community. Jesus, he came that we might have life, and life to the full. That's what my community is all about. And so I think that to me was an education that I received in doing ecumenical work. Just right now, I'm involved.
What is ecumenical work?
Ecumenical work is to notice that the Christian community is so splintered that no longer can we say that, when we think about Jesus just before he died, he said that all may be one. Mm-hmm. And so ecumenism is the attempt to once again put Jesus at the center, and to see that denominations became denominations for all kinds of reasons, but that one thing we have in common, and that is our baptism. We've literally been dunked in God. That's what we are. And a dear friend of mine, Barbara Bowe, who taught at Chicago Theological, she used to say that Christians are the walking wet.
the
walking wet. You
That's
just
great.
Can't get rid of it.
Get rid of that baptismal power.
Yeah.
And
So
spirit
it's really important that we somehow realize that that's so important. I just finished a book on the ministry of hospitality, and it's been translated now into Spanish. So we're going to be the Office of Worship. We're going to be doing that for different parishes to show them that hospitality. The word hospitality comes from the word guest, welcome guest. And Jesus is asking people to come to his dinner. And so we have to facilitate that. Yeah. We have to, like a smile is not a bad thing to have when you're at the door of the church.
And the bottom line, the first question was why everything seems to be falling apart with regard to especially, it's not only Hispanics, but European American people. There's a move away from this. And I think you've highlighted some of the problems. And now a little bit of what's the solution being. You touched one of the key things in my mind is a sense of hospitality. That if I walk into a Catholic church and all of a sudden I'm a stranger, or if I'm not noticed, or if I'm not appreciated, I'm not going to come back next Sunday.
Absolutely not.
I'm not going to do that. Mm-hmm. But if there is a driving awareness that every person that walks in this church is a person who needs to be felt that they're part of a family, not just the family of God, but the family of this parish, and then we nurture that. Oh man, I think that this could change that basic hospitality that you were talking about. When I was pastor, I was reading all kind of things about what makes a good pastor. How can you be a good pastor? Yeah. And there was something that I thought, I never did it, but I wanted to put on the front of the church door 3 words. One was welcome. The other was listen, and the third was empower. And just to say that, wouldn't that be marvelous if in the Catholic Church, as a solution to trying to overcome this flood of people that are moving to the evangelical and to the non-denominational churches, you are welcome in this church, and I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to care what you have to say, and then third, I'm going to take the risk of letting you then pick up that dream and that call of the Spirit and let it happen in your church. How do you?
It's true. Yeah, you know, if we look at Jesus in the Gospels, there's the blueprint right there. You follow Jesus on an ordinary day. If you read Mark's Gospel, you'll be out of breath because, as you know, in Mark's Gospel, there are two big words he uses as and then and then and. So, I mean, by the time you get to the end of a chapter in Mark, you need a nap.
I like that. Yes.
So if we watch him for a day, if we watch Jesus for a day, and watch who he hangs out with, and also watch how he hangs out, then you get the clues right there. You get the clues for discipleship. Who did he hang out with? The marginalized. Yeah. He hung out with people that nobody would hang out with. He hung out with women. He hung out with lepers. He hung out with children. He hung out with all kinds of folks, people who didn't fit into the rules of Judaism at that time.
Samaritans and Gentiles.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so that's who we need to pay attention to now. I live in an apartment complex. It's called a senior arts colony. There are several of them around in the city, but the street that it's on, there are a lot of homeless people. And the reason why there are homeless people there is because they've come because it's Hollywood. And they're mostly young, and they're mostly people who have come to be discovered so that they can become movie stars or musicians, and they would become very wealthy. And now they have no place to live. They're on the street. You literally have to walk past them to get to the market. And so you say, there's Jesus there. Yeah. Nobody pays attention to them. I always carry stuff. I always carry stuff in my car. I always carry like those, you know, the bars, you know, that have like protein bars. I always carry them so that if someone says, I'm hungry, I assume that they're hungry. I assume they want food. I'm not going to say, oh, he's probably going to take money and then he's going to go buy liquor. You know, if he says he's hungry, that's what I do. And I've never, ever given them a protein bar where they don't say, ma'am, thank you so much. They're people, you know, and Jesus is there. Amen. We know that because we've already seen him in his everyday life. We've seen how he acts. We see who he talks to. And
as Francis says, they might smell bad.
Exactly.
But maybe we should smell bad with them because we associate with them.
That's right.
We're going to come right back. Stay tuned. We got a message for you. We're going to come back, and you know what I want to talk about? I want to talk a little bit about how can we start to influence young people with regard to the flood of things that are happening on the media.
Absolutely.
But stay tuned.
Yeah.
For the past few years, right on our set, we have presented to you a picture of Jesus that has a smile on his face. It's a beautiful incentive for us to understand that the God we believe in is a God who loves us, who even smiles at us with recognition and a sense of welcome and love. Many people, as they look at that picture, they're calling us on the phone and writing and saying, oh, how can we get a hold of that picture? Well, we are going to offer you a print of this wonderful picture, allowing you to be able to have this image of the smiling Christ. The title of it is The Risen Christ by the Sea. It's by Jack Jewell. And you can be able to experience for yourself and those that you love the joy and the peace of Christ. On the back of this print, you're going to find quotes like this. These things I have spoken to you, that my joy may be with you, and that your joy may be full. Having joy in my life is one of the most important things, and knowing that the joy is based on the fact of God's smiling at me and believing in me. God is approachable in the smiling Jesus as he stood by the sea. Another quote that you might think of as you're understanding this rich, rich love of God is, When you fast, don't put on a gloomy look as the hypocrites do. We would like to send you this print, and we'd like to ask you, would you send a donation of $13 or more to allow us to get it to you and to allow us to be able to continue this important program? Remember, $13 or more to allow the joy and the peace of Christ to enter your life and the lives of those that you love. Sister Gretchen, we've had the chance maybe to look at a serious problem in the Catholic Church today, not only in the United States, but in Europe, Australia, in many places where this is going on. And the call is to make sure that we don't allow ourselves to become so legalistic or so ritualistic that we lose touch with the real power of Jesus. One of the things that you do, though, as a teacher and as a writer, is that you're able to wrestle with young people today, not only the young people on the streets of Hollywood that you're caring for, but young people that are walking around, and you can see them on the subways and on the buses, holding on to their deal and and communicating with maybe the person in the aisle next to them rather than speaking out. The whole world of television, the whole world through the internet. What can we do to become a catalyst of perhaps alternatives or maybe a fresh direction, that somehow that media can be a blessing rather than sometimes, as it is, a curse?
I think media literacy is absolutely essential, and most people don't pay attention to that concept of media literacy.
What do you mean by that?
We need to know how the media works so that it won't work us over.
Ooh. Oh, okay.
Very important, because if you look at the people now, they're not minding the media. The media is minding them, and they're not conscious of it. If you can't talk to another person across the table in a restaurant, why did you go to the restaurant? Why not order take-in and both sit beside one another and do your little thing, okay? Why waste the time and the space when other people are waiting for a table where all you're doing is just sitting there and not even speaking for in a time? So I think minding the media is very important. One of the things I used to do when I was working more clearly in media was I would give workshops to parents, and it would be called How to Help Your Kids Mind the Media. And the point was that that you need to help them understand how each medium works. For
example, give me an example of that.
How does advertising work? How does music work? Do you pay to get your song on the top 10 list? How do you get there? How is the industry working? How does movie industry working? Look at the whole thing recently about how hacking into a particular studio. The Sony experience. The Sony experience, and it's about money. We need to know that. The children need to know it's about money, and it's very fascinating to me. One of my nephews, one of my nieces actually, and her boy, he's now going into college, but when he was little, for Christmas, he would have to choose one of the toys he got for Christmas, one of the ones he liked, not the ones he didn't like, but the ones he liked, and give it to a poor child.
Whoa!
From the time he was little. And so then from the time he was in 8th grade, he began to work in a soup kitchen. So you have to show them alternatives to sitting in front of the television set. You have to show them alternatives to buying. We just came through the season of greed. I always say it's not really Advent; it's the season of greed, and so it's important that we do media literacy from a very early age. Sister Rose Picardi and I co-authored several books on media literacy. The first one was called Media Mindfulness, and it was for youth ministers to teach high school kids. It was actually for youth ministers and for Catholic high school teachers. And then they asked us if we would do one for K through 8. And we did one on K through 8, and each grade studied a particular aspect of media. So the kindergarten kids they learned about music, so that you get them ready to understand how music plays a part in an ad. If it's happy music, you're going to buy it, you know. So a kindergarten kid is perfectly capable of finding that, and they had patron saints. So the patron saint for kindergarten was Saint Cecilia, who's the patron of music. So they realized that the church is not against media. The church has always said media is good. Every one of God's gifts is good. So it's important that we teach that, so that we're not anti-media, as many groups are very anti-media, and some of them are actually Catholic. And part of it is because they're not media literate. And I think the media is an important part of evangelization, just as you do. That's what you do as part of your ministry. We can't not look at it, but we also have to realize that we need to learn how it works.
And what you're saying to me, and I really appreciate this. This is very profound. That as we sit and we're watching a television program, and then hopefully being able to run through the commercials, to understand the whole financial world of this whole thing, and acknowledge that in our world of Jesus, who was very loving for the poor and very much, we can be seduced in the music world, in the television world, in the internet world, whether you're Android or IP or iPhone. Money is billions and billions of dollars, and we're partaking of that.
And we're looking for the next thing. We're looking for the lesson.
And we're hungry
I can
for
hardly wait to get the iWatch. It'll be coming out soon. Now what's going to happen? How much does an iPod cost? The iPhone. We're talking hundreds of dollars. And yet you see kids in the inner city with them, you know? Somehow our values can get skewed if we're not pointed in the wrong direction. I remember in the gospel, if you remember, Jesus said, these people, they look and look, but they don't see. They listen and listen, but they don't understand.
Oh, and that's what you're talking about, isn't it?
There you have it, right there. I think I say that too often. I think it's important, but I think it is. I think youth groups, they're perfect for that. I went to the confirmation of one of my grandnieces, and the kids were playing with their iPhones during their confirmation ceremony.
Yeah, of course.
I'm going, hello?
Yeah. Missing the boat. This is the tool and the bigger picture. They're not seeing the bigger picture. That's maybe the thing that you're really saying. And I'm thinking of that with regard even to the world of sports. I love football. I love basketball. I love baseball, and I love it. And yet sometimes I think that we overlook the salaries and we overlook the financial real. I have a relative that says, "Gosh, if those guys love to play baseball so much, why don't they do it for free?" You know, and that's totally out of the ballpark. And yet that's going to Ireland. The national sport is a football sport, in which the people of the town get together and they play, and they have big national things. They don't get paid.
That's right.
They love the sport.
That's right.
Wouldn't that be? What a fascinating world.
Look at even collegiate sports. You know, I just read somewhere where now they're pushing for coaches to get more money if they are able to convince the kids to actually go to class.
Wow, which is the basic thing of the whole deal. Why
and
go to
look
school?
at them now. What do? They drop out when they're juniors or seniors. Why? Because there's money. Wouldn't it be wonderful if we were able to just see that money can be a value, but money can be a value insofar as we know how to share it with people.
We're going to come right back.
Okay.
And you know what we're going to do? We're going to pray with some of the things that you're concerned about. You've been writing and you've been calling to us. Stay tuned, and we want to pray with some of your concerns. Thank you. For the past few years, right on our set, we have presented to you a picture of Jesus that has a smile on his face. We are going to offer you a print of this wonderful picture, allowing you to be able to have this image of the smiling Christ. And you can be able to experience for yourself and those that you love the joy and the peace of Christ. On the back of this print, you're going to find quotes like this: "When you fast, don't put on a gloomy look as the hypocrites do." We would like to send you this print, and we'd like to ask you, would you send a donation of $13 or more to allow us to get it to you and to allow us to be able to continue this important program? Remember, $13 or more to allow the joy and the peace of Christ to enter your life and the lives of those that you love. I thank you very much for coming and being with us, and it's always good to be able to share some topics that I think are important. What's going on with the church? How can we make the Catholic Church more accessible to many people? How can we deal with making sure that young people are not so addicted to the means of communication that they fail to see the bigger picture of finances and advertising and being aware of that in order to have a better balance. But one of the joys is we ask people to call in and to help support the ministry, but also to share their prayer intentions. But listen to these and pray with us, if you will. This is Sheila from Illinois. My daughter was in an accident. She needs serious help. Grace from California. Help me to keep my eyes on the Lord. Dorothy from Mississippi. I'm paralyzed from a stroke. Lord, help me to get better. And here's Sylvia from New York. She's in a nursing home, and or she's needing a nursing home desperately from that. Let's pray. Lord, we believe that you're a God not just up in the mountains or off away up in the clouds, but a God who walks with us and lives with us. And not just lives with us and walks with us, but vitally concerned about helping and bringing healing and even miracles into our life. Would you do that right now with these people that have prayed and with everyone that's watching? Bring your life, bring your miracle. And may Jesus' love for you always make you smile.